What is going on, everyone, and welcome back. Last week we added the ability to click on stuff inside of the project panel to inspect it or change values or whatever. We didn't get it fully completed, but it is working right now. There's tons of stuff we need to do in the meantime, including like pop-ups and stuff like that to be able to add certain things into it, but we need to get into external project folders and all that fun stuff first. So this week we are going to work on the menu bar. And I'm going to have to split this into 2 episodes. I thought I was going to be able to um, do the pop-up as well as the menu bar this episode, but after looking at the code and kind of figuring out how long it would take to do that, it would take a little bit longer than I would like, and I don't want another long episode. So for this episode, we're just going to render and set up the menu bar. And in the next episode, we will do pop-ups. So pop-ups will be universal, so we'll be able to use them for the menu bar, and we'll be able to use them eventually for like right-clicking on an object or right-clicking in the project panel or whatever the case may be. So that'll be good. And the reason why we're doing the menu bar right now is because after this, we're going to start making the engine more independent. So we need to have access to an external folder and set up engine properties and have project paths and all that stuff so that we can save and load scenes and, of course, save and load projects as well. Because that's a big thing before we get into runtime stuff. Before we get into the runtime window, we need to be able to load and save scenes. So that's a really big one because we're going to have to do that externally. We can do it internally in the program or inside of the IDE, but I don't want to do that because then we're just going to have to change it. So that's why we're doing the menu bar first. So let's go ahead and get into this. So in the, let's see here, in the editor, because I don't want it, because the final product, it's not going to be like this editor package is not going to be there. We're going to remove that whole thing whenever we create a game standalone. So anything that we want to get rid of for game standalones, we're going to put inside of this editor package. All right, so we're going to create a new class, and this class is going to be menu item. And this is what we're going to start with. Anybody who's worked in like normal Java, not game engines or anything like that, just worked in Java in general, you're used to seeing JMenu items, and this is basically what this is. So the first variable that we need is the name of the menu item. That way we can display it as needed. So it's going to be a public final string name. And the reason why it's final is because we don't want to change the item name at all. Anytime we create a new item, it's going to have the name set to it, and it's not going to be able to change. If we need to change it, we can just create a whole new menu item. And secondly, we need a private final okay. I didn't know I still have my phone on vibrate. It's blown up over here. We need a private final consumer menu item. And call that func. And you probably already know the consumers, since we talked about that in previous episodes. It's just a method, basically, that we can call. And so now we need to set up the constructor. So we're going to call public menu item string name consumer menu item func. That way we can go ahead and set these. So this dot name equals name, this dot func equals func. And I know there's a faster way to set up these constructors just by right-clicking and creating the constructor that way, but I prefer just typing it out. Secondly, we need the ability to accept the method. So here we're just going to call func.accept this. All right. So how this is going to work is whenever we create the menu item, we pass in the function that we're going to call if we click on that specific item. So up here, like project. So if we click on it, it's going to call a method called like project or open project or whatever. So then it's going to call this func.accept, which basically just says that we clicked on it. And that's all that is. All right, that's it for the menu item. Now we need to create a new class again, and this is going to be our menu bar. So it's going to be menu bar, capital M, capital B. Why are you still vibrating? I turned you off. Alright, so in here, what a menu bar is going to be is it's going to be a map. And if you don't know, a map can be several different things. It can be, you know, a hash map or a linked hash map or just a map in general. Map is the parent for it. So I'm going to go public map, and then it's going to be a string and a list of menu items. I'm just going to call this menu equals new linked hash map, and I will explain what a linked hash map is in just a second. So what a linked hash map is it's basically just like a normal hash map. The difference is a linked hash map is ordered. So if I add something here called, I don't know, potato, and then the next one I put tomato, it's going to be ordered in that specific order. Hash map doesn't do that. It's just some random order. I don't even know how they even order that in general, like how they display it. But it's not ordered in any way. And that's why we're using linked hash maps, so that we know that if we put file over here, like file first, it's going to be the first one being rendered to the left. If we put search over here, it's going to be the sixth one, and so on and so forth. Import Java util list. Now, the next one, I don't know why I just did that. Now we need to just set up some styles. That way we know exactly what we're rendering. So the first one is going to be a box style. And the second one is going to be an empty style. That way we can render it without a box. So help does not have a box right now, but it does have a box. So that's just what we're doing with that. And then we're going to need to know which one we have currently selected. So if we click on it, we know that help is currently selected. And that's what we're doing. We're doing just the menu bar, so don't even worry about this box. This is your pop-up. We're not worrying about that at all at the moment. And lastly, we need private color previous color. You might ask yourself, why would I need to know the previous color? And the reason is because we're going to be changing the text color of the current GUI. So whenever we change it, we want to change it back to what it was. That way, for instance, if I'm rendering a red text and I want it to stay red, well, if I don't change it back, then it's not going to be red anymore. It's going to be black, because that's what we're changing it to. So that's just like a just in case precaution thing. So the next method we need is the, no, not the menu. We need the constructor first, and then the render method. And here we're just going to set the styles. So we're going to say box equals editor.skin.get white box. I already have white box set up, I believe. You know what? I don't know if I have it set up yet, honestly. I'll just do box. Doesn't matter. It's just whatever box skin that I want. I know on the backup right here, I have a white box, but I don't think I have one for that yet. And then now we have the box skin setup. Empty is always going to stay empty. Now we need to add some menus. So to add a menu, it's really simple. So we're just going to say add, and then the name of the menu. So I'll do file. And I'll I'll say new menu item. And let's say I'll just add a quit. Oh, needs another parameter. And I'll say this file. This file. And that's how you set it up. It's really simple. We still have to create the file method, but and here we will say add asset, because this will be our menu for adding new assets to our project, whether it's a new game object or a new sprite or whatever. We will put it under this asset tab. So we'll say new menu item, say new game object, because that's really easy to do. This asset. So that's pretty simple. Now add is another method that we're getting ready to do right now. It basically just adds it to the menu, but we need to check if the list is null or not, like if we have to create that list or if the list is already there. And that's why we're passing it over to another function. It's a public void add string parent menu item. So parent is just the name of the menu item. So we'll say, or name of the menu parent, whatever you want to call it. So we'll say list menu item equals menu dot get parent. So that'll get whether it's file or whether it's asset or whatever it is. So if menu item equals null, so if the list is null, then we're going to say menu item equals new array list of menu items. And then menu dot put parent menu item. So then it just creates the list and then puts the list in the menu. And then right below that, we're going to just say menu item dot add item. And that adds the item to that list. So that's the end of that function. Now we need to get into the render method. So this is just going to render the menu bar the way it's supposed to be rendered. So public void render. And here I'm going to say float w equals application dot width. That way we have that cached out into just a single letter, just to make it easier for us. So we need to check if selected does not equal null. And if selected does not equal null, then we need to check if there's a pop-up to even be if there's a pop-up that even needs to be rendered. So we need to check if there is no pop-up to be rendered, then selected equals null. So right here, we're just going to comment it out because we'll go ahead and get it ready for us. We're going to say if GUI dot has pop-up, because we're going to place this pop-up inside of the GUI class. Equals false, then selected equals null. And I believe that will work for the entire time. We'll never have to change that. I believe that's how it's going to be. I don't know. We'll see whenever we get further into pop-ups, like right-clicking over here while you have a pop-up still up over here. We'll check all that. And by the way, with pop-ups, there's only going to be one on screen. So you can't right-click over here and then right-click over here and there have two pop-ups, or have a pop-up here and a pop-up over here. We're only going to have one at a time. So that's why we just check if GUI.has pop-up. Because all it's going to do is it's going to replace it in the GUI method with whatever pop-up is current, the last one that we placed. Alright, so now that we did that, we're going to move it down. GUI dot box, and this will create the actual full box for it. So this whole white bar. And it's going to be at 0, 0, W, and we'll make it 30 high. And then render it as a box. And right here we're going to set the color of the text. So previous color, right? Isn't that what I named it? Yeah, prep color. Previous color equals GUI.text color. And that will get the current text color and store it inside of there. And then we're going to set the text color for the GUI. So GUI.text color equals color.black. And then we need to get some offsets and stuff like that so that we know which one we're currently iterating through and how far away it should be. So start with the offset, which is going to be 0 starting out, and float index, which is going to start out at 0. So index is the current one we're iterating to. Offset is how far away that box should be rendered. So right here we'll go not float, for string M and menu.keyset. So M is just the menu name for that current key set. So we're just going to iterate through each one. Then we're going to say float width equals GUI dot font. It looks like I'm going to have to add that as well. String width and pass an M. And then we're going to add a little extra to the end so there's some padding to it. Because as you can see, there's overhang on each side. We don't want the box to be right up against the letters. So let's change visibility of font to public. We'll move this over here. There. Now that's public. What? Change string. Oh, okay. It's not there. Is it? Where did I put font? Oh, right there. String width, not string width. There we go. Just a stupid misspelling apparently whenever we created the font or the font episode. So the next one is going to be name rect. So this is going to be the rectangle of the current name that we're rendering. And it's going to be equal to offset minus index 0 width, and we set this to 30. And that will give us the rectangle that we're currently going to be drawing. So if selected equals null. So if nothing is selected, or if this one is not selected, or if selected is not, good God, if we have nothing currently selected, then we know for a fact that this is not going to be rendered with a box, obviously. So if GUI dot button CM name rect empty and box. So it'll be empty unless we're hovering, and the hover is going to be a box. Then we're going to say list menu item list equals menu.getM. So this gets the current list for that menu name. And then list string V for value. It's new array list of type string. And I double-eyed it. And then for int I equals 0, and we'll probably cache that out later. I'm going to worry about it right now. List.size I plus plus, not equals equals, plus plus. And right here we're just going to say v.add list.get I dot name. Oh, what in the world is with my typing all the time? I always got something stupid going on. Alright, so all this does is it iterates through that list of menu items, and it throws the name into a list of strings. That way we can render it. And then we say GUI. Let's comment this out. It's going to say GUI dot set popup, and then we're going to pass in the name rect, the v, and this clicked. So the clicked method is going to be for whenever we click on one of these. So whenever we click on one of these, it's going to pass it back to here and call the clicked method with whatever we clicked on. So if we clicked on this, it'll pass back in show view. So then we can check it that way, just like how JMenuBars work. Then we need to set the selected. So selected equals M. Selected equals null. So if selected does not equal null, then we know we need to check whether it's whether this current iterated menu name is the selected one. So else if selected dot equals M, then GUI dot button M name rect box and box. The reason why we're not using an if statement for this GUI button is because this is the one that's currently selected. So we're saying that if it's currently selected, then we're just going to draw the button. We don't worry about whether or not it's actually clicked or not. Else, so if it is not the one that is currently selected, then we need to do the exact same thing that we did here. So we can just copy that and then paste it there. So that's pretty easy. Now, right here, we're going to say offset plus equals width, and then index plus plus. So it's going to increment the index, and it's going to set the offset to the width of our word. Oh, now we're almost done with this. We need to create the callback functions now. So clicked string v. So whenever we click a menu name, this is what is going to call for this function. We're going to say list menu item list equals menu.get selected. And then for menu item in the list, if item dot name dot equals v, then item dot accept and return out of the function. That way we don't just continue to loop through this list after we find it. So we're going to loop through the list. If it's the one that we clicked on, then we're going to do the callback and then return out of the loop. Alright, so here we can do public void file menu item m. So this is what it's going to look like for the file menu. So if we click on file menu and then we click on something in the file menu, then it's going to call this file method. And if we click on asset, menu item m, then this is going to be the method that is called if we clicked on something that is inside of the asset. So here under asset, I can just say if m.name equals new game object, then I could just say new game object, new game object. Let's import that. We're not going to be able to use this method for now, but it will be set up for whenever we create the pop-ups. Because right now, all it's going to do is it's going to render. It's not going to actually function at all, but it's going to be all set up and ready for it. So I believe that is it for all that. Now we just need to go into the editor and actually render it. So HIP, we need private static MenuBar m. Then down here say m equals new MenuBar. And debug.draw will say right here m dot render. I thought I called it draw there for a second. Okay, now you're just going to make a crap ton of noise. Yeah, thank you so much. Add cast to M. What did I do wrong? Oh, I didn't save it. Alright, that should be it. And we're going to have to offset these as well. We'll go ahead and click on it just to see if it's rendering. Stop messaging me. What's going on? Alright, it's rendering, but I did not set it back. To the previous color. GUI.textColor equals previous color. I don't know why I completely missed that earlier. Alright, so that changed it back. Awesome. Oh, I can't even check if it's because it's the first one that I'm rendering. Let's go into editor. We're gonna have to move these down. I wasn't thinking. So this, I'm gonna say, we're gonna start it out at 30 because that's where we put that at. And this is gonna have to be application.height minus 60. Let's see here. The inspector is going to be at 30, application.height minus 60. And the render window going to be 0, application.height minus 230. Well, I'm going to have to figure out what that's all about. Alright. What happens if I click on it? Yeah. Okay, so that works as intended. Since we don't have the pop-ups going, it's going to stay selected. But yeah, so that works. I'll just need to drop this down a bit. Why am I saying that the Y is starting at application.height minus 30 or minus 230? If I put 260, what happens then? 260 there. What if I just drop those? I'm an idiot. Give me just a second, I'll fix this. Okay, I see where I went wrong. Change that back to 230, and that one back to 230. I was changing asset types and asset over here in the editor. Stupid me wasn't thinking. And it is inside of the core method, and it's this one that we want to change the render window. So I'm going to do 30 and then application.height minus 260 should be the right one. There we go. All right, awesome. So now we have the file menu bar set up. I don't like where those are positioned, but we'll do that later. Actually, let me change that to white. Oh, don't do that. Previous color. I'm going to change it to white, and whenever I get the white box going, then I'll change that back to black. There we go. And it does shift. We will get that all fixed later. But for the moment, we have a setup and ready file menu bar. In the next episode, we will get these pop-ups going. And I believe after pop-ups, we are going to do an engine bootloader. I'm pretty sure you guys know what a bootloader is. It's just it's like a window that just pops up that says, you know, what project are you going to open up, or if it's a game, then the bootloader would say, what screen resolution do you want, and all this other crap. So the bootloader will have a list of all the projects that we're currently working on, and it'll have an option to change where the engine settings are and where the workspace is. Because how it's going to be set up is we're going to have an actual workspace to work with. As you can tell, whenever I did the backup, you see Logic Workspace down here, and it's going to be where it's going to be sitting at. So if I click on config.options, you will see this. We will be using XML, the built-in XML. A lot of people don't realize that there's an XML format built into Java itself. So a lot of people go out and they try to use other people's XML stuff, and it's all jacked up or doesn't work right, or there's some kind of bugs. Yeah, there's one built into Java. I don't know why people build external stuff. But we're going to be using XML format for the configuration properties. And the configuration properties is for the engine itself. So it will tell us the current version that we're working on. It'll tell us where the engine's workspace is, and all that good fun stuff. So the bootloader will have that option to where our workspace is currently at, because right now I have it set to the current workspace directory. So when I'm working in the IDE, then the workspace is right here in the Logic Backup folder. But when I'm outside of the IDE, it's not. So you can use like user.home and all that stuff, but some people have issues with being able to do that. So that's why I'm going to add that ability in there to change the workspace place, because not everybody is going to have the ability to access that information at that location. But yeah, that's some of the stuff we're going to be working on the next couple episodes. So I will see you next week when we do all these pop-ups. All right. Have a good week.